an event is about to unfold, steeped in secrecy. A president's life is abruptly ended, followed by a scramble by U.S. officials to conceal crucial information from the public. Since that dark day 60 years ago, questions around who ended John F. Kennedy's life and why have captivated the nation. As time progressed, evidence surfaced indicating that both the FBI and CIA withheld key details, not only from the public but also from the commission assigned to investigate the case. This lack of transparency sparked widespread skepticism toward the official narrative, a skepticism even shared by Lyndon B. Johnson, who succeeded Kennedy. By the 1980s, Congress suggested the likelihood of a conspiracy, igniting a storm of speculation. People proposed countless theories about who might have been involved in the president's death. In situations where authorities keep secrets, such theories are bound to flourish. In this video, I'll break down how the events transpired, discuss the official account, and explore why so many have come to question it over the years. John F. Kennedy was beloved by Americans. With his charming presence and close-knit family, he quickly rose through the ranks of American politics to become the 35th president. The early 1960s was a time of substantial change, with the U.S. solidifying its role as a global superpower amid Cold War tensions. As president, Kennedy faced the challenge of overseeing military and intelligence agencies that had grown accustomed to secrecy, wielding their power through covert actions like regime changes and clandestine operations. Kennedy viewed this as excessive and sought to curb the autonomy of military and intelligence leadership. He dismissed or demoted several top figures involved in covert operations, choosing diplomacy over conflict, notably during the Cuban Missile Crisis, and resisting deeper U.S. involvement in Vietnam. This stance strained his relationship with the country's military and intelligence leaders. Understanding this context is essential when looking back on that tragic November day in 1963. As Kennedy's motorcade moved through Dallas, gunshots abruptly shattered the scene. The president, struck in the neck and head, was rushed to the hospital, where he was declared dead. That same day, a suspect was identified: Lee Harvey Oswald, a former Marine with a history of pro-communist sympathies who had briefly defected to the Soviet Union. After allegedly firing the shots, Oswald fled the scene, ultimately encountering and allegedly unaliving a police officer before being apprehended in a theater. He professed innocence, labeling himself a patsy, an old-fashioned term for someone set up to take the fall. In the hours following Kennedy's unaliving, the FBI's director, J. Edgar Hoover, swiftly concluded that Oswald acted alone. He characterized Oswald as a troubled individual with no accomplices. This rapid judgment came well before any substantial investigation had begun, as captured in a recorded conversation between Hoover and President Johnson. Yet, the full story would remain elusive. 2 days later, as Oswald was being transferred, a nightclub owner named Jack Ruby emerged from the crowd and fatally fired at Oswald, robbing the nation of a trial that might have unveiled deeper truths. This denial of justice granted the government, particularly the FBI, the power to shape the narrative. A memo soon surfaced advising the White House to affirm Oswald's sole guilt to prevent speculation, hinting at the prolonged secrecy that would shroud the incident for decades. The memo also advised releasing information to quell public doubt, a poignant piece of advice in hindsight, as transparency may have mitigated some of the speculation that followed. In light of newly released phone recordings between Hoover and LBJ, the complexities of this case continue to unfold. In a recorded conversation, it becomes clear that the FBI resisted a comprehensive investigation into Kennedy's assassination. President Johnson quickly formed what became known as the Warren Commission, even consulting with FBI Director Hoover on potential members. Notably, Johnson suggested Allen Dulles, yes, the former CIA director whom Kennedy had fired after the attempted overthrow of Cuba's government. His appointment to the investigative commission naturally raised eyebrows, as this appointment did little to reassure the public about the commission's impartiality. The Warren Commission, a panel of 7 distinguished Americans, was tasked with reviewing all the evidence largely controlled by the FBI. They were given a mere 10 months to conclude their investigation, using information primarily supplied by Hoover's agency. The resulting report confirmed Hoover's initial conclusions, that on November 22, Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in firing 3 shots, 2 of which struck the president, with the third hitting Texas Governor John Connally. The commission's narrative left no room for alternative theories. Oswald, they declared, had no accomplices. One key piece of evidence, known as the single bullet theory, explained the injuries sustained by both Kennedy and Connally with just 1 bullet. According to this theory, the bullet traversed Kennedy's back, exited his chest, struck Connally's back, shattered his wrist, and lodged in his leg, all while remaining oddly intact, raising doubts from ballistic experts about its pristine appearance. Meanwhile, the Warren Commission's report asserted there were only 3 shots in total, basing this on the 3 empty shells found on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. Any evidence that pointed to multiple shooters was sidelined. This was crucial because, if more than 3 bullets had been fired, it would imply more than 1 life-taker, indicating a conspiracy, something Hoover was determined to avoid. The commission's focus on Oswald's solitary role reflected Hoover's own hasty conclusions, guiding the investigation along a predetermined path and away from examining potential conspiracies. The Warren Commission's report unequivocally attributed Kennedy's assassination to Oswald, ignoring testimonies from witnesses and medical personnel who suggested that some wounds appeared to come from the front. This selective investigation and failure to disclose all evidence sowed distrust, a decision that would haunt the government for decades as conspiracy theories gained momentum. Why, many wondered, didn't they investigate all possibilities, including a potential conspiracy? The answer lies partly in the geopolitical landscape of the early 1960s. During this tense Cold War period, fears of Soviet or Cuban involvement could have sparked panic and pushed the public toward a desire for retaliation, potentially leading to a dangerous escalation with another nuclear superpower. Moreover, the CIA had its own reasons for supporting a limited investigation. At that time, the agency was secretly trying to unalive Fidel Castro. A more thorough inquiry might have unveiled these covert operations, damaging the CIA's reputation. Thus, the FBI and the Warren Commission shaped a story designed to reassure the public and maintain stability, asserting that Oswald acted alone and silencing any hints of a broader plot. However, this carefully crafted narrative began to unravel as people scrutinized the evidence. Eventually, even members of the commission, such as Governor Connally, one of the victims of the single bullet, publicly questioned the findings. He expressed disbelief in the single bullet theory, stating that he didn't believe both he and Kennedy were struck by the same projectile. Doubt only grew when Johnson himself hinted years later that he suspected a conspiracy, perhaps Cuban retaliation for CIA attempts on Castro's life. Public trust in the Warren Commission's findings took another hit with the televised airing of the Zapruder film, which offered stark visual evidence of the assassination and contradicted the official narrative in the eyes of many Americans. This public airing further fed suspicions and calls for a true accounting of the events, especially at a time when public faith in government was already eroding due to events like the Vietnam War, revelations of CIA misconduct, and the Watergate scandal. These mounting doubts led Congress to establish a new committee, reopening the investigation into the deaths of both Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This was a response to a public demand for transparency amid a profound crisis of trust, marking a significant moment in American history as people sought real answers to long-standing mysteries. The Congressional Committee embarked on an authentic investigation, driven by a commitment to uncovering the truth. They didn't shy away from confronting the Warren Commission's failures, explicitly noting that its narrow focus on the lone gunman theory prevented a thorough exploration of other possibilities. In a bold move, the committee singled out the FBI and CIA for withholding evidence, including a shocking revelation from an FBI agent who testified about being instructed by his superiors to destroy a letter Oswald had sent to the FBI. As he was told, "Oswald's dead now. There can be no trial. Here, get rid of this." The committee ultimately concluded that there was a high probability that a second gunman was involved, pointing to a likely conspiracy. However, they stopped short of identifying the second life-taker or determining who might have orchestrated such a plot, and again urged that all information related to the incident be made public. "Isn't it time," they asked, "for Americans to know what really happened at 12:30 p.m. in Dallas, Texas, on November 22, 1963? One pivotal piece of evidence supporting the conspiracy theory was an audio recording purported to capture more than 3 shots. This recording suggested multiple shooters, but later scrutiny by the FBI and a separate research team cast doubt on its authenticity, claiming it did not record the assassination shots after all. Yet, the real significance of the committee's report lies in its exposure of the Warren Commission's selective handling of evidence and its efforts to keep the American people in the dark. When this congressional report came to light, confirming that key evidence had been hidden, conspiracy theories reemerged stronger than ever. In the early 90s, these theories culminated in a film portraying an alternative version of the events, weaving a tale of a shadowy government conspiracy to silence Kennedy. The film dramatized figures like Oswald, Jack Ruby, the Mafia, and even Cuba, creating a story so compelling that it almost felt like it dared the audience to ask the fundamental question, why? Who truly benefited from Kennedy's unaliving, and who had the power to cover it up? While some saw the film as dangerously speculative, to many, it felt like a response to years of government secrecy. In a climate where transparency was lacking, people were left to wonder. Perhaps the government was hiding something monumental. As the theories presented in the movie gained traction, public pressure mounted. This eventually led Congress to take a step they should have taken decades prior, passing a law in 1992 to release all documents related to the Kennedy assassination by 2017. This law spurred the creation of the Assassination Records Review Board, chaired by a judge appointed by President Clinton. The board spent years reviewing documents, some of which raised new questions. For instance, the medical reports on Kennedy's autopsy were alarmingly inconsistent. Doctors' original notes on his injuries didn't align with the final autopsy report, and even Kennedy's brain, a critical piece of evidence, had mysteriously vanished. These discrepancies only fueled further suspicion. Additionally, records revealed that both the FBI and CIA had been monitoring Oswald's activities well before the assassination. By the 2017 deadline, 5 million documents were released to the public, yet thousands of documents remained classified by the CIA, raising the inevitable question: why continue to hold back information? Here's the twist, though. Despite releasing millions of documents, no irrefutable smoking fire weapon evidence has surfaced to confirm a conspiracy. No hidden record definitively points to another perpetrator beyond Oswald. The documents available today could have been released back in the 60s, likely preserving public trust. But it seems the opportunity to foster confidence in the government has long passed. The notion that something nefarious lies beneath the surface of Kennedy's unaliving has become part of the American psyche. In this space of doubt, alternative theories have thrived. Some speculate that Johnson orchestrated the plot to seize power, while others suggest that a rogue faction within the CIA acted out of frustration over Kennedy's interference with their covert operations. Then there's the idea that Cuba was behind it, a theory even Johnson entertained, given the CIA's attempts on Castro's life. This information vacuum created by withheld evidence became fertile ground for speculation. People examined any available clues, from suspicious witness deaths to a man holding an umbrella in Dallas that day, and pieced together their own narratives. So, where does this leave us? Despite countless theories, no substantial evidence has emerged to replace the story we were told decades ago, that Oswald acted alone. Yet, the government's handling of the investigation has permanently marked public perception, fostering a climate where mistrust lingers and conspiracy theories find fertile ground. It's this enduring sense of being misled that sustains these theories, as people turn to their own devices to seek the truth they feel was kept from them. This mistrust, once sown, has become a deep-rooted element of American culture, ensuring that some questions will remain unanswered for generations to come. The assassination of John F. Kennedy is more than just a moment in history. It's a symbol of unanswered questions, deep-seated mistrust, and the complexities of power and secrecy. Decades later, as new documents surface and old wounds reopen, one thing remains clear: the truth, whatever it may be, continues to elude us. What do you believe happened on that fateful day in Dallas? Share your theories in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more explorations of history's greatest mysteries and the stories that keep us questioning everything we thought we knew.